Okay, Sneed, and the D210 ladies are here at the Mavs introductory press conference. They introduced 9 new players and then a new GM. So it's a lot of change going on with this team. At the same time, a lot of the same. We heard a lot of the talk about, can this team get back to the playoffs? They had the 12-year stretch in last year, but then they want to develop the young guys, but they have the right veterans to do it. So what did you take out of the press conference?
Well, I think this year they have a little bit more optimism because they do have players that have a little bit longer contracts. Last year they had 9 players with 1-year contracts. So this year the contract's a little bit longer. And then Coach Carlisle, I think, hit it right on the head when he said they're more experienced. And that'll help in late game situations, which late game situations really hurt the Mavs last year. So hopefully they'll be able to kind of put a better spin on what they did last year. And defense still concerns me, though.
Defense, when they add Samuel Dalembert, is going to be a big guy. But you talk about late game, that's when Jose Calderon is going to have to really step up. He doesn't turn the ball over, and he also led the league in three-point shooting last year at 46%. But you talked to Mark Cuban about a guy who's going to be like the number 2 scorer on this team, they hope. And he's a former 25-point-a-game scorer if he can get back there, Monta Ellis. So what did Cuban say about Monta?
Cuban said he's not going to put that pressure and say he's going to be, he's going to be the next Dirk on the team. He's not going to take over, but you can see in his eye, he's hopeful that he'll be a great compliment to Dirk Nowitzki. It was asked in the press conference, is Dirk going to be your sidekick? And he was a little hesitant, laughed it off, and said, right now he's going to be Dirk's sidekick, but definitely there's that potential for him to be the guy and him to take over this team sooner or later.
Now, Norrelle, something I take from this team is versatility and depth. Last year, they thought they had versatility when you talk about bringing in Darren Collison, O.J. Mayo. You think both of those guys can operate with the ball in their hands. Well, they can until they turn the ball over. Now you bring in a guy like Monta Ellis who can play the point, even though he's going to be starting at the 2, Jose Calderon, and also Devin Harris once he gets healthy, and Wayne Ellington will fit into the mix along with Vince Carter. So is that really what you take out of the additions to this team?
Yeah, and I also really like the fact that they brought some fight. They brought some dog into DeJuan Blair. He's got a chip on his shoulder. Do you hear how he wants to go after some of these Western Conference teams, especially the Spurs? But I think that's one thing the Mavs were really missing last year was fight and some dog and some roughness. Because, throughout the league, the Mavs are always kind of labeled as a soft team. And DeJuan Blair said, we're not having any of that this year. So I think that's going to be a really good thing for them. I want to get your take, Earl, on the Mavs just being point guard heavy. I mean, they've tons and tons of guards, young veterans. How is that going to mix in with kind of the inexperienced centers and forwards they have?
Right. That's what I talked to the new GM, Gersson Rosas, and he said basically what his strength is the development league. What he was able to do with the Rio Grande team and the Houston affiliate is take young guys and develop them in the D-League. And I think that's what you'll see Shane Larkin when he does come back from that foot injury. When you do see Ricky Lito, a guy who sat out of basketball for a year, he's going to have to get some playing time there. But then at the same time, Gal Meekel's ready to play right now, and I think Jose Calderon might be the perfect guy to learn from. But a guy that I really want to talk to Kristen about is Brandan Wright. He was very quiet during the press conference, but you can see he added some bulk. He's expecting to place a little bit more power forward behind Dirk. He's going to play some center, but I think he's the guy who comes in with a little chip on his shoulder.
I think Brandan Wright is really looking to come off the bench this year, and he does have a chip on his shoulder. And actually, I think all the guys on this team really kind of have a chip on their shoulder. Most of them are veterans. Most of them have jumped around, had 1-year deals all over the place. Now, finally, they're all together, and it's almost like the replacement team. And they want to get that chip off their shoulder, and they want to win. And how they're going to do that? It's going to be in the practice. It's going to be in the work. It's going to be with Rick Carlisle. But I think they all have a lot to prove, and that's what, together, they're going to get back to being a championship team if they can learn how to gel together and make it happen with that chip on their shoulder together, cohesively.
You said 2 key words there, together and if. And that's something we'll learn over the course of the season. We'll go back to find out what this team can actually turn into whenever training camp does get to rolling around, right around the time as the relaunch on October 7th. You can catch that on Time Warner. So signing off for the D210 team here at Mavs press conference, and you've just been credentialed.